So we're going to review a little bit from last class. And let's see if we can get done with the basic charts activity if you haven't completed that yet. So the goal here is to come up with a data set. And it could be one that you find through me or you make up yourself. And so I just want to review my examples again. So my first example here for a pie chart was me just thinking about how much time in a day I spend doing things. And I kind of tried to break it down into the main activity groups. So this is one idea I came up with there. And I did have some other ideas. So anytime you can come up with data, that if you can make a bar chart out of it, you can probably make a pie chart too. So getting dressed in the morning, I was thinking about, I'm kind of a t-shirt guy. I like to wear t-shirts. And so I was looking in my closet, what kind of shirts do I have? And I have a whole lot of black t-shirts, and I have a few blue ones, and then I just got a bunch of other ones. And so I was just counting in my closet how many t-shirts I have. And then I have some button-up shirts that I wear on occasion, and so I counted through those too. So I could take something like this and make a bar chart out of it, or a pie chart. And if you wanted to make it by hand, I'll go over that procedure in a second, which you'll do this kind of thing with kids in the classroom. Playing with statistics and making graphs and reading graphs is a big goal that you'll see in just about every grade from kindergarten on up. So in a spreadsheet here, if I wanted to take my clothes count and turn that into a pie chart, for example, I want to highlight both the description and the number. And if you have titles for what each of them mean, that's always a good thing to highlight too. And I think I'll share this all with you. So for those with me now, I'll put this in the chat. And remember, if you share a Google Doc or sheet, make sure it's set to anyone with a link and not restricted. I'll put this in the chat. And then those of you watching this through the video, this will also be in the description of the video. So if you want to check this out, there it is.
So for that assignment, we can just pick whatever. So I could do like 20 students and what their favorite color was, and then I could do it.
Yeah, or you could do something related to softball or any kind of interest you have.
Like a favorite sport or something.
Yeah, you could list, favorite sports and how many people like this sport or that sport. Yeah, anywhere where you can have categories and numbers to go with it.
Okay.
And Abilene, welcome. So again, when we usually pie charts are for summarizing categorical data. So my category are the types of shirts in my closet, and I'm summarizing by counting them. Okay, so this is a summary chart of part of my closet. And if I want to change this into a chart, all I have to do is highlight the data and then insert chart. And Google will recommend either a bar chart or a pie chart or something like this, summary table. And I can always switch to the other one. And then anytime we make a chart, we want to make sure we have relevant titles. Now, I think the colors are pretty good, although I might want to change the black and the blue, other button colors in here. But that's one way to make a chart. And again, we definitely want good titles. So I might title this shirts. And it's not the most exciting idea, but it was just, something that came across my mind this morning. And then charts are editable. When you click on a part, sometimes you have to click and then pause and then click again. You can get options over here in customize where you can then change the color. So maybe black shirt should be black and blue shirt should be blue. And button shirts and other shirts, I don't really care about the colors there. So I have a reasonable title at the top, and here it's giving me percentages. I think that's okay. So this would be a pretty good one. Now with kids, you're probably not going to use a spreadsheet unless you're in one of the upper grades, like 5th or 6th grade. So you would try to take something like this and build a pie chart another way. And so back to my example here, to draw this right here, again, I looked at my times. To make a pie chart by hand, you've got to know the total. And a lot of times in books when they describe making pie charts, they talk about 360 degrees, but I find it's easier to just work with fractions and then estimate those fractions in a circle. So often with kids, what we'll do is we'll give them a pre-made circle on a piece of paper or give them something circular to trace. So I just traced here a drinking glass on my piece of paper. And then in my table, I just took my number, my amount of time for each item and divided it by the total time and gave myself a decimal approximation. And then I tried to estimate that. So I'm going to try to do that right now for this one. And I'm going to bring this to my notebook. Scribble on it. So on a piece of paper, and again, you can do these on a computer or on paper and submit pictures, whichever you like. So let's say this could either be a bar chart or it could be a pie chart. And again, this is a summary of categorical data, is what we usually make bar charts and pie charts with. And the summary here is in a form of a count. How many black shirts were there? How many blue shirts? As opposed to an inventory, which would be black shirt number 1, and black shirt number 2, and black shirt number 3, all the way up to black shirt number 12. And blue shirt number 1, blue shirt number 2. Maybe they have more exciting names. But for now, we'll just go there. So this is a summary because it's not each individual, it's just a count of them. If I wanted to make this into a pie chart, then I'm also going to need to know what's called the relative frequency. So count is also known as frequency. How often does it occur? And I want to make a new column for relative frequency. Relative frequency is just a proportion, which we've played with lots before. And the proportion is just the count over the total. And that proportion could be a decimal, a fraction, or a percent, your choice. Google presented mine as a percent earlier. So I need to know the total here. So I'm going to have to add another row here and then add these up. So I've got 10, 19, and then 49. And then the relative frequency would be 12 out of 49, 8 out of 49, 15 out of 49, and 14 out of 49. And usually with kids, we'll pick a nicer denominator. I was just counting shirts. I really didn't think about what my denominator was going to be. This is what it just happened to be. So with kids, we kind of preset the activity so that it'd be a nice number like 10 or 20 or 50, so that we get nicer fractions or decimals. So next, I need an approximation of each of those to help me draw better. So I think I'll just add that in here. Now, I can see that you guys were or are in this spreadsheet with me. Right now, it's set that you can only view it. If you wanted to edit anything I have here, you would have to make a copy. Now, once you make a copy, though, anything I change after you make a copy, you wouldn't see in your version because it's a new version of it. Does that make sense? So here in a spreadsheet, what I often do to get the count, and this is a little tricky, but it's a good thing to know. Oops, I should get the total in there first. Forgot about that. And to get a total on a spreadsheet, you go equals, and then it's a sum. And then you just highlight the numbers you want to sum, close parentheses, hit enter. So there's my 49 there. And it looks like Google just tried to add that into my graph, which I didn't want. So let's just delete that for now. And then for the relative frequency, it's just equals the count divided by the total. Now, we saw before, I think this is probably way back in, oh, I guess we did it a little bit in 211 and 212. When I fill a formula down like this, it's going to change the row numbers. So that B2 is going to change to a B3, and then a B4, and then a B5. The B6 is going to change to a B7, 8, and 9 as I fill it down, and I don't want that. So to tell it to not move from row 6 for the total, I have to sneak in between there and do a $6. And that tells it don't touch the 6 for the total. It's always in row 6. And I could have chose the autofill or click back on it and then fill down. And I should find the final one is 1 for 100%. And those could be stay as decimals or percentages. I'm going to leave them as decimals and just decrease the decimals. All right. And then I just I can use those exact decimals or approximations. So 24, 16, 31, 29. Back to my notes. I've got the approximations. So that's about 24%. That was about, I think it was 16%, 31%, and about 29%. And so then I just do my best in my circle to try and make those percentages roughly. So then I draw my best circle. Good luck with that on this pen, but here we go. Should have brought something circular to trace. Okay, so there's my best circle today. And usually I make some temporary lines to mark off quarters to help me. So I'm just gonna throw in some temporary lines. So I'd be working with a pencil right now to try and make this happen on my paper. And the black shirts is pretty close to a quarter, but just under. So then I go in and start drawing some more permanent lines. So maybe I leave this line here, and then maybe 24% looks like that right there. And so this would be my wedge for the black shirts. And let's see, I do not have a black, so we're going to make them red. So this would be my wedge, my sector, that's about 24%. Then I have to come up with one that's 16%, 31, and 29. So let's go for that. So let's see. If that is a quarter, 25%, half of it would be 12.5. So maybe down here would be about 16%. So I think this one here is 4% is my estimate. So you just got to kind of play around if you're going to do it by hand. And I'm hoping this is about 16%. And so that means the remaining chunk should be about 60%. Yeah, so that means we have 50% in the bottom here, right? Plus about 10% right there. That seems reasonable. And then we want to split this not quite in half. One of them has to be a little bigger than the other. So then I would guess that my next line, let's see, halfway is probably there. So maybe just a little over from where I think half is, right there. And so then I'm thinking this one right here is my 31%, and this region over here is my 29%. And then I would erase the lines I don't want. And this tool, I can just pull them out maybe. There we go. So that comes out. Oops. I guess I wanted part of that in there. Redraw that. And then this one can come out. So that's kind of the way I drew that other one you saw that I drew on paper with colored pencils. And let's draw another line here. And then I can go in and label them. Does that make sense for that procedure for doing it by hand? Any questions on that? Other. And then if you want to put any shading, make it pretty to the best of your ability. Again, my ability for prettiness is a little stretched with this tool. I'm much better on real paper. All right, so I don't see anything in the chat, so my hope is that this procedure makes reasonable sense. And again, for this assignment, it's up to you whether you want to draw them by hand or you want to do them on a computer. And so wherever possible here, I'll demonstrate both.
Gary, I was gonna ask you, how do you do the photo one on the computer? Like, is there a way for the chart, like the Google, to do that, like the Google slide?
To put this in a Google Sheet?
Yeah.
Or a Google Doc? Yeah, so the couple ways to do it. The easiest way is to just, stop the share for a second, is to just whip out your phone and take a picture of what you have on paper. Once you take a picture of what you have on paper, then you want to get it to the computer, and I usually just email it to myself from there. Once I email it to myself, I can download it or copy and paste it into Google. And in Google Docs and Sheets, copy and paste works. However, copy and paste does not work if, let's say, let me go into the student view here. And if I go to the text entry box, it'll look like you can copy and paste here in the text entry box, but only you will see it. When I go to look, I don't see it because it's trying to grab a file from your computer, which I'm not at. But Google has a tricky way of taking a copy and paste and making it permanent in the Google Doc. Let me find a picture I can use. Just a sec here to demonstrate it. This example here. All right, so here, I don't want to take the time to take a picture and send it to myself, so I'm just going to grab a file I already have. Let's suppose I just want the top part of this picture to be part of my assignment. So again, I have to get it from my phone to my computer. Once it's on my computer, so I'm going to download this now to get it there. And give it a better name. Let's call it triangles. Then I can put it in a Google Doc. So let me get a new Google Doc open. Once you're in Google Docs, you've got a couple of options. If the picture's already on your screen, you can copy it and then paste it. If you have the picture downloaded, then it's a matter of just going to insert and then upload from your computer. And then pictures, triangles. So here I got a slight problem in that it came in sideways. And let's see, I think Google has a way to rotate it. So I'm going to try that in a second. But first I want to crop it. So that's one of the options here, crop image, because I don't necessarily want the whole thing. So then once you select crop, when you're on the picture, you can then just grab the corners and select just the part of the image you want other people to see. So I just say I want people to see that part right there. And then I just hit enter to finish the crop. And then I can grab this right here and I can rotate it on the screen and get the part I want. Is that kind of what you were looking for?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And you can do a similar thing with screenshots. If you do a chart in Google Sheets, this is kind of neat. So let me recreate this chart here. So I make my chart. Let's do the pie chart again. Give it a better title. If I want to put this in a Google Doc, I can just go to the 3 dot buttons and then copy the chart, and then go over to my Google Sheets and paste it in. And when you paste it in, it asks if you want it to be linked or not. Ooh, what's that?
Share your screen.
Hello, did you lose my screen? Is that what happened? Oh, interesting, what happened there? That was weird. Did that just switch the screen thing? Oh, that's right. I switched when I was showing you my phone and I forgot to switch back. Okay, so let's see. I probably need to repeat something there. You probably didn't get to see the whole crop thing I did. Okay, so I'll show that again. Let's get rid of this. Sorry about that. So again, once it's on my computer, I just go to Insert, Image, Upload, and then find the file. Make sure you remember where you put it. A lot of times when we take images with our phone, they come out in the wrong direction. And then there's a rotate tool in Google Docs. So just rotate it until it's the direction you want it. It's a little stuck there. There we go. And then to crop it, there's when you're on the image. So if I'm off the image, I get a different menu at the top. If I click on the image, this is the crop tool right there. I just switch to that, and then I just drag the corners and edges to get whatever I need in there. And just keep adjusting until you have just what you want to see, and then hit enter on the keyboard, and that finishes the crop. In a Google Doc, if you want to get a chart, once you create the chart, click the three-dot button to get more options and just choose copy. And then here I can just paste. And when you paste, it says, do you want it linked to the spreadsheet or just pasted unlinked? So what linked means is once I put it in there linked, if I go back and make a change to either the chart here or the table, it'll automatically update. Like suppose I realized, oh, I really had 13 black shirts. Then all of the numbers and percents change a little bit. And then in the Google Doc, I get an update option, and it gives me the new numbers automatically there once I hit update. If you choose it to be unlinked, then it's just a picture of the chart, however it was the first time you made it. All right. Did I just do there? Close. All right. So next, where are we? Looking at the activity. So a pie chart and a bar chart basically come from the same kind of data. Usually it's a summary of some kind of categorical, but there are other kinds out there too. For example, in my stuff over here, and I don't want to delete this chart anymore because it's linked to that document. Otherwise I'll lose it there too, I think. I like to make pizza, and this is my pizza crust recipe in terms of cups. And the oil I use is really like tablespoons, and the salts in teaspoons. So I just kind of have a decimal approximation of what a tablespoon and a teaspoon are in cups. Now, looking at the number 3 along with 600ths or 100ths, not going to show up very good on a chart. So this isn't the best example there, but this is a situation where I'm not looking at a summary of categorical data. I actually have these variable amounts like 3 versus 1 and so on. And that can make a bar chart. One I actually carried through with here is my water usage at home. And these are actually measurements of the amount of water we use in my household over the last year. And so that is actually quantitative data, not categorical. And I don't care which one you use. My point with some of the other examples is that often pie charts are used for categorical data. All right, let's see, what else do we have here? The pictograph. I thought of another example. So there's lots of examples you can do for pictographs. Check out the book for some other ones or search the internet for some ideas. But here is one I'm going to do now. Let's leave the student view. Back to my document. I was thinking as another example, the number of students I have each quarter. So and so I'm gonna, summer is where we usually start our year. So I'm just gonna take a look at summer, fall, winter, and spring. And so in the summer, I usually have pretty light enrollment. I taught one class last summer. It was full. I had 25 students in the summer. Fall, I had a couple of very full classes and a couple of not so full classes. So that one went, let's see, 20, 25, 15, and 15. What's that, 30, 40, 50, at about 75 students in the fall. In the winter, I had, I think it was about 55 students. And then this spring, a couple of my classes are full and a couple are small. And so I think I have about 45 in the spring. If I wanted to make a pictograph of this, I'd need to come up with some kind of image to use for that. And I can see that 25 occurs here, 25 occurs 3 times there. This is a little over 2 25s, and that's a little under 2 25s. So another way to make a pictograph than the example I showed earlier is to choose some symbol. So I'm going to have this smiley face as my symbol there, and that smiley face equals 25 students. We could do other things, like actually I think I'm going to make a different choice there. Let's let it equal 10 students. And then sometimes we'll have part of the picture. And so then we'll make an axis down here. And then we'll split that axis up into the different seasons for classes. So my summer will go over here. Fall, winter, and spring. Oops, I erased the wrong thing up there. Smiley face is going to be 10 students. And so for the summer one, I'm just going to have smiley face, and then I'm going to start making a smiley face, but I'm going to have to cut it in half, which is a little weird, but we're going with it. So that would be my 25. So you got to have a key as to what your object means. The earlier one I showed yesterday was cats, and each cat was a whole cat. So I just a bunch of cats stacked. And then continuing that for fall, I'd have to have 7 of them. And then a half a one. And so on. And then we could just keep doing that for each of them. And so again, that's a common way of making graphics. You'll see them in the news occasionally. And then again, you need some kind of key to help read it. You can do something like that in Google Sheets, but it's a little trickier. Getting half of an object is a little harder. But one thing about Google Sheets, if we look at my pictograph here, you can insert a picture in an individual cell. or the picture could be inserted on the whole screen. So here I just found a free picture of a cat on the internet, and when I inserted it, I said, hey, just put it in that cell right there. So this is the Pictograph tab that I shared with you. So I could actually make a pictograph as long as I use whole cats. Making a half a cat, I would have to crop the little image, which I think is possible, but I didn't try it here. Maybe it's not possible. Nope. Okay, so I probably can't crop the cat. He just fills up the height of that thing there. But you can make a pictograph with whole images in a spreadsheet. Otherwise, you have to use some other graphics tool. You could build it in Google Docs here, because in Google Docs, you do have the ability to crop an image. So you could, make half a cat, just like I could do half of that picture there. But you do not have to use technology for each of these. It's up to you. Let's see, pictograph. So the line plot or dot plot. So here's my example here. The book calls it a line plot. It's more commonly called a dot plot. Here I'm using X's instead of dots. And it's kind of like a pictograph, and then I'm just counting with some objects. And often they're X's, but often they're dots. And you have a number line at the bottom. So here's my number line at the bottom, and then me counting how many times did 1 happen? How many times did 2 happen? How many times did 3 happen? And so on. So that's a dot plot. So you have to come up with some idea to do that. And then the line graph, I redrew. I had stolen somebody else's, but here's my version of it. I can download it, sure. And so this is a picture of a chart from Google. So I just downloaded it from my Google spreadsheet, where I show there were around 20 million men and about 18 million women in the workforce with college degrees in 2000. But as of 2019 over here, the women slightly exceeded the men in terms of number of people in the workforce with a college degree, bachelor's degree or higher. So that was my line graph. And notice that this one is called a line graph versus a line plot. And there, again, if somebody refers to a line graph, that's usually a graph that happens over time. So you have to come up with some kind of data with time in it. So something that changes each year. So you have to come up with an idea for that, and you could either do it in Google Sheets or on paper. So questions about building either of these charts. The main thing is to come up with an idea and then get it on paper or in a spreadsheet. Okay, so let's pause.